Okay, we are all welcome to week 8. And for this week, we'll be looking at imagery and visual storytelling. So, what does imagery and visual storytelling entails? First, it's about choosing images. The second is about storytelling. And the third part is composition. And I put it there that a powerful photograph can tell a story without text. And there's a visual example here by the right. We can see a couple, the woman by the left and the man by the right, and it's obvious that they're a couple based on this photograph. So the reason why we have images is, in most cases, is to tell a story, to convey a message without necessarily adding text. And the opening question here in this slide is a paragraph and an image. So there's a text here which says a happy man, and there's a image here which conveys a happy man. So, and there's a high tendency that we are going to remember this image more than this text here. So images also helps us to, images in design helps us to communicate our message quickly, and it delivers the message straight on point. And I put it here that the brain loves images, and multiple researchers consistently shows that humans process visual information far faster than text, meaning our brain tends to process visual information more than normal text. And I feel say that my best bet is that you remember this image more than this text. And here we can see a text that reads a woman who is taking a break, or the image that is explaining this same text. And without much explanation, this image already explains more that this person is taking a break. Perhaps they are probably exhausted or something. And images helps to create first impressions. And when people see an image, they can quickly decide within seconds whether it's going to be, whether it's trustworthy, whether it's premium, whether it's cheap, whether it's exciting, whether it's boring, whether it's inviting, or whether it's depressing. And images also influence our emotion, meaning that image can shape our emotion at a particular point in time, like when we look at a piece of design or a photograph around us. This can stir up emotions within us. And the first image here is the image of a smiling child, which I believe many of us will be happy to see. And the second one is a disaster scene here, which is not really a pretty scene. And the third one here is a luxury product shot. And the image itself already shows that it's a premium brand. So images, the use of images in design can influence the emotion of our viewers, can influence the emotion of our target audience. We can use the right image to stir up the right emotions within them. The images also tell story. A single image can suggest location, it can suggest mood, it can suggest a personality, it can explain conflict, it can depict success, it can also mean aspiration. And I used 3 images here to tell a simple story, which I'm going to break down now. The first here is a student studying, and after she studies, she graduates, which is the image in the second scene. And after she graduates, she gets a job or starts a career in the corporate world. And we can see that these 3 images now, without adding much text, has done a proper job of storytelling. So you can use images in our design to tell stories, or images in our presentations to tell stories, and to explain to explain our intended message to our target audience or to our viewers. So every image says something. Every image we look at, maybe casually while surfing on the internet or on a piece of design, they all say something if we do pay enough attention to them. And sometimes images can even say a lot without much explanations, or unintentionally. Let's start with this first image. This first image is the image of a man that is probably sad or depressed, maybe he's going through one or two things. And the second image here is different from the first one, in the sense that this man in this second image is thinking about something. Perhaps he's hopeful about something, maybe about a line or a course of action he just took. And the third image here is clearly different in the sense that the man here is a happy man. The happiness radiates on his face, and it's obvious that this man is a happy man. So images say something, they explain something, they connote a particular message at a particular point in time. They help us to understand what a piece of design is about, or what a piece of visual image is about, what it's trying to communicate. I put it here that image is not decoration. The use of image in design is not merely for decoration, and many beginners treat images as fillers. And by fillers, I mean you just have to put an image there. Let me just put an image there. Let me just drop an image there. No, should not be treated as fillers. And professionals treat images as information. For every image you use on your design, you are using it as a piece of information. You are using it as a point of contact. As a point of contact, you want your target audience, or you want your audience to relate with. So we also have visual communication hierarchy. And when it comes to visual communication hierarchy, it depends on, and like we've explained in our previous class, hierarchy is the order of in which information are being prioritized on a piece of design. So, and I put it here that people usually notice image first, then the headline and the supporting text. And there's a visual example here by the right. We can see the image here, and this is the headline, and this is the supporting text, which is shawarma. And most of us, we quickly notice the image first, and then the body text before we notice other elements in the design. There's a case study here, a poster with a weak image and a poster with a strong image. This is a poster with a strong image. This is Lewis Hamilton. He's an F1 racer, and his image is obvious and dominant in this poster. You can see the supporting text driven and the logo of Benz. I think this was done around the time when he was still with Benz, when he was still a driver with Benz. And this is a poster with a weak image. There is an image here that looks like an happy emoji, but we are really struggling to understand what else this poster is all about due to the poor use of image. Then, how do I choose the right image as a designer? How do I choose the right image? There are some questions we should ask ourselves first before selecting any image. And I put it here that, what message am I trying to communicate? Before we choose any image, we should ask ourselves, what message am I trying to communicate with this image? Do I want the people seeing this? Do I want people seeing this design to feel joy? Do I want them to feel connected? Do I want them to feel excited? So the kind of message we are trying to communicate will determine the kind of image we'll be using for our designs. And relevance also matters when it comes to use of images. An image should support the message, not merely look attractive. When we are trying to communicate the image of a premium brand, then we have to use premium images that align with the premium nature of that brand. And there's a visual example here by the right. This is Cristiano Ronaldo. We are all familiar with him. And this is his image being used in this piece of design. There is also a backdrop image of his that is being put in the background. And he's merely looking at this. We don't really need much explanation to know that this is CR7. The image already supports the message. And we have image selection framework. Image selection framework is just a simple list of questions we can ask to select the right image. The first question is it relevant? Is this image I'm about to use relevant to my design? Let's say you are talking about an healthcare brand and you are using images from a construction company to as a model for your healthcare brand. It's already wrong and it's not relevant. Second, is it clear? The image you are using, is it in high quality or in low resolution picture? The third one, is it emotional? In terms of emotional, can it stir up the right emotions within people that will be looking at that image? And the fourth thing is it believable? Is the image real? I understand there's now the advent of artificial intelligence and agentic AI all over the place, but the image you will use should look real. It doesn't necessarily have to be a a picture taken by a human. It can also be AI generated pictures, but it should look realistic enough. And there's a visual example here by the right. It says Victory in Christ series with Pastor Chris, and we can see someone holding a cup, which signifies victory. Victory in Christ, and this image already aligns because the image is telling us that with Christ we can have victory. And the audience also matters when it comes to use of images. Audience also matters when it comes. We have different audience and different image choices. For the youth audience example, you can use images that convey energy, that is energetic, that is expressive, and is dynamic. And we can see some example here. This is a group of your young people having fun. This is a young student, and this is a young lady. So the use of image for the youth audience should be images that are energetic, expressive, and dynamic. And we have the corporate audience example. Corporate audience example. For the corporate audience example, you have to use images that are professional, like this, in this case, that are structured and trustworthy. Images that are professional in the sense that they convey a sense of professionalism and is structured and trustworthy. And for luxury audience example, we have to use images that are minimal, refined, and images that look premium. Like some visual examples here by the right, images that look premium and have a classy look to it. For best practices of use of images, we have to use emotional best practice use of images in our design. The first is emotional relevance. People connect with emotion more than information. When the image stirs up the right emotion within them, they can easily connect to that piece of design that we are presenting to them. And the second point is image consistency. When we use multiple images on a piece of design, those multiple images should feel related and should support the message, the main message of that design. And we also have stock and intentional visuals. And what do we mean by stock photography? Stock photography are professionally produced images licensed for public use. Like stock photography is like professionally produced images that are licensed for public use. These images are being made by professional photographers, and they are licensed for anyone on the internet to use them, but we have to use them for public use. And there's an example of a stock image here by the right. This picture was probably taken by the beach, and it's obvious in the picture. So why designers use stock photos? The benefit of using stock photos, number one, is because they are affordable and it's convenient to use them, and it's fast. You can easily search the internet and get one or two that support your message. And this is also an example of a stock photo. We also have good stock photography versus bad stock photography. Good stock photography looks authentic, believable, and relevant. And bad stock photography looks fake, overly posed, and generic. So when we are going with an images for our design, we have to use a good stock photography, images that look authentic enough, they are believable, and they are relevant to the message we are trying to pass across on our design. And we also have intentional imagery. Intentional imagery, just like the word intentional, is when we select images specifically to support a message. And there's also a visual example here by the right. Let's say we are designing for a poster for F1. This image is kind of an image that we can use because this image shows speed. It explains motion, which is what F1 Formula One is all about. We also have best practices for use of images. The number one is authenticity wins. Real images we usually outline generic images. And brand photography. Strong brands invest in custom visuals. Strong brands, they have their own personal photography team that creates their own specific stock photos for them. And the use consistency also matters. Different image styles create confusion. The most popular brands like Nike, they use consistent image styles, and if you go through their Instagram page, you will see a consistency between their visuals. They adopt a minimalistic style to their design. And visual identity through images. Images also contribute to branding. Images contribute to branding. And we also have composition in images. And composition is basically how elements are being arranged in the image itself. So composition is simply arrangement inside the image itself. And there's a visual example here by the right, and composition here, composition is being explained. We can see the first spoon, it is placed in the first position, the second spoon in the second position, the third spoon and the fourth spoon, and the element on each of them is different. So this is a practical explanation of composition. The arrangement inside the image itself is composition. So why composition matters? Composition controls attention. And looking at this visual example here by the right, some people will see these tomatoes first, then the pepper and other stuff elements in this image. So composition guides our attention in an image. It helps us to see what the designer wants us to see first, and some people might notice this section first. So composition basically serves to control our attention on an image. We also have the rule of thirds for under images and the use of image. The rule of third is basically a key composition principle that divides an image into a 9-section grid, just like here in this visual example by the right. And the subject is being placed along the grids or at the intersection points, just like here, to create a balanced and dynamic photograph. And it enhances engagement compared to centering the object. So the rule of thirds is a principle in design that basically divides an image into a 9-section grid. And after dividing an image into a 9-section grid, the object is placed along the grid lines or at the intersection point of the grids, just like here in this image. And the reason why we have rule of third is to create a balanced and dynamic photograph, and to also enhance engagement compared to centering the subject. So best practices for rule of third. Number one, visual balance. Best practices for use of image, rather. Visual balance. Every image has visual weight. And contrast in images. High contrast images create focus. And we also have color in composition. Color attracts attention. We have spoken about color in our previous class. And cropping also matters. When you don't crop your image properly, it can destroy the image and therefore lose the relevance of that image. We also have visual storytelling. So what makes a story? A story often includes a character, context, emotion, and action. And there's a visual example here by the right. Looking at this image is already telling a story of an ancient Zen master writing on a scroll. And other people might make a different sense of this image, but this is my own interpretation of this image. We also have storytelling through photography. An image conveys a wealth of information about events at a specific moment in time. And looking at this, we can see these 3 people are football fans. This guy is supporting Bayern Munich, and this one is supporting Dortmund, and this lady is supporting another club, which I do not know at this moment. So looking at it, we can see that they are Bundesliga fans, because there's there's the flag of Germany at the background. And this photograph has even explained much to us than what we would have found in text. So an image conveys a wealth of information about events at a specific moment in time. We also have storytelling through design. And by storytelling through design, it means an image to support the narrative of that design. And there's a visual example here by the right. It says chess tournament, register now. And there is an image at the background. There's an image of a chess piece. There's an image of chess pieces on the background, which explains that this flyer is all about chess. So the image here is supporting the narrative of a chess tournament. So best practices for use of image and for use storytelling story. A strong story should discuss the subject, environment, and emotion. Meaning, for story, when you try to tell a story through an image, it should discuss the subject, environment, and emotion with the use of the appropriate image. So for week 8, we have 2 assignments. First, find one image that tells a strong story, and secondly, use the image in a poster design to convey a message of your choice. So the first assignment is to find an image that tells a strong story, and when you find that image, ensure it is in high resolution. You use that image in a poster design to convey a message of your choice.